So, something has annoyed me for 20-some years, and the Last Dance documentary has brought an old debate back up to the forefront. Did Michael Jordan get away with a push-off in the closing seconds of the 1998 NBA Finals? This, I'm sorry to say, is a really silly debate, but one that has gained more traction through the years.
The shot when, games on the line, game 6, championships on the line, and he pushes off Bryon Russell.
There were two other people on the planet who thought Mike didn't push off, and they were both interviewed immediately after his story in the doc.
People say that Mike didn't push off. Bob Costa's among them. Then why is his hand on Bryon Russell? What's it doing?
To this day, Michael Jordan will not admit that with his left hand on the right butt cheek of Bryon Russell, he ushered him along down the lane.
I just don't understand this. But let's talk about the part that you probably already remember. 98 Finals, Salt Lake City, Bulls up 3-2 but reeling with Scottie Pippen hurt, and Game 7, if necessary, to be played in Utah. With 45 seconds left in the fourth quarter and the game tied, Karl Malone delivers a pass to John Stockton, who hits a three, and it looks like the Jazz are going to prevail. Now, what took place next was the stuff of legend. Post-prime, 35-year-old Michael Jordan, who had played 43 minutes as the only option, takes the ball, scores a quick 2, steals the ball, clears out, crosses over Bryon Russell, hits the shot, and rides off into the sunset. The definition of a storybook ending. But of course, Jordan's old nemesis Isaiah Thomas was doing color commentary for the game, so he made sure to get this take off.
Watch Jordan's left hand here as he gives Russell the push. The referee can't see that. Jordan frees himself up for a clean look. The greatest thing about Jordan is he has all the tricks. That's why it's so difficult to guard him.
So it probably goes without saying that what made Michael Jordan so tough to guard was not primarily that he had all the tricks. And of course, the bad boy Pistons really had all the tricks. Tricks that are flagrant fouls or suspensions today. So there is quite a bit of projection here by Isaiah. But let's put that aside and forget the messenger, forget about not shaking hands, forget about the 92 Dream Team and all that other stuff. Did Thomas have a point? I'm not a big fan of the argument that only hoopers can understand a thing, and you hear this sometimes. Well, you can't understand this because you didn't play ball, and that's not really helpful. The only thing I will say to provide context is this is basically the original crossover. What Jordan is doing is the most basic crossover possible, the right to left crossover from a right-handed player. Now, Mike set this move up by going a hard right on the previous play and getting all the way to the hoop, which, interestingly, was the same thing he did in the clincher 5 years previous against the Suns, also with about 40 seconds. The thing we want to focus on here is Jordan's right plant leg. As the Last Dance made clear, Mike knew that Russell played on the front of his toes, which is another way of saying he wasn't stable in his stance. What I would say was even more pivotal was Russell was a gambler. Game 1, 1997, the same thing. Bryon Russell gambles with about 4 seconds left. That's a foul, by the way. And Jordan slides to the left and hits the game winner. A year later, again, Russell is beat by the strong hand on the previous play, so he decides to gamble on getting physical on the next play, and he's immediately out of position and trailing. Jordan darts right at the same time, freeing his left arm and plants that right foot. Russell is dead in the water at this point. If Michael is facing north, he's facing east. But what about that left hand? Let's take a look. It certainly appears that Jordan shoves Russell from any of the reverse angles in slow motion. I would contend that it's pretty clear to my eyes that if you watch the play, doesn't look like a push from any angle in real time. Not to go all Zapruder film on this, but that low court angle is the one that tells the whole story. Here you can see that Jordan's fingers are extended but not grabbing anything at any point. He does make contact with the heel of his hand, but he does not at any point clutch Russell's cheek. In fact, his hand, in about 0.3 of a second by my count, slides down his backside and hits that right leg. The hand doesn't drive Russell, it bounces. Now, Michael Jordan was a professional athlete who worked hard on his strength training and all that, but the crux of the matter is it is simply not credible to suggest that Michael Jordan could push Bryon Russell, a taller and heavier athlete, that far across the court in much less than a second with the heel of his left hand. End of the sequence, Bryon is in the paint and Michael is at the top of the key. If you want to say that Jordan braced himself against Russell, helping him halt his own momentum, fine. If you want to say that Jordan inadvertently karate chopped Russell's leg, fine. But this is not a push. Now, I hope this is a convincing argument, but maybe you still have some doubts. Either way, the question we should really be asking is not, did Michael Jordan push Bryon Russell? The question is, was Jordan's alleged foul a viable call in 1998? The answer is a resounding no, for at least two reasons. Number one, NBA officials were expected to swallow the whistle at the end of games, period. The players were expected to decide the outcome for themselves. That's why none of these calls were made. Reason number two, Russell is actively creating contact and committing fouls the final two plays. This is a foul. They didn't call anything. Now, Jordan strips Karl Malone clean, but Karl goes to the hardwood, either attempting to find the ball or flop and draw a call. Again, correctly, no call made. Finally, final play, Russell gets handsy again. These are personal fouls he's committing. He's on top of Jordan's head and shoulders, no call. So why in the world would they call a phantom push? Again, the players settled the game. So yes, Michael Jordan was the biggest star in the league, and yes, the NBA has always had a star system, but to suggest that anyone was ever going to make that call in the last 10 seconds of a finals game is ludicrous. That's just not the way the league worked back then. If the officials really wanted to help the Bulls out, if this is some conspiracy, they would have sent Jordan to the line for the legitimate times he was fouled on the last two plays. But like I said, I don't know why Jordan push Russell ever became a thing. Anyway, thanks for helping me get that off my chest.
The man his energy was going that way. I didn't have to push him that way. Russell was already stumbling away. That hand on his backside was the equivalent of a maitre d' showing someone to their table.